2025 wasn't loud. That was the whole point. If you're waiting on the album of the year to tell you what happened, you already missed it. Because the biggest moments in hip hop this year didn't come with a release date, they came with gravity. Jay Z didn't drop off, he just existed. Dre didn't need an album, he showed up and the culture moved around him. LL can trend off pure reputation. No rollout, no begging, just presence. And that's what Gen X clocked this year. Silence became a flex again. So, nah, we're not doing the best of, we're doing what actually mattered. What's good, family? You back with Grown Man Bars, the best Gen X hip hop show on Blinky Blink's internet. I'm your man, Chad, resident rap nerd, and with me, as always, the big street spokesperson, Big Absolute BA. What is buzzing at the end of the year, cousin?
Tis the season to get into somebody's. Never mind. Tis is the season, right?
From Santa Claus to 2025 in rap, like I said in the open, we're not going to go through the best albums of the year, the biggest moments, anything like that. We just want to talk about the 2025 year in hip hop on the whole and what it means for us Gen X rap fans. Let me get it started, BA, with the first question. In 2025, who had the biggest year without dropping an album?
Without dropping an album,
Yeah.
same person who always has the biggest year. Yo, to be honest, as crazy as it is to say, 2025 was halfway worn by Kanye's antics, Diddy's antics, and then, of course, Jay-Z's continued ownership of he's like Pinky in the Brain. I think he goes to bed every night thinking, what are we doing tomorrow? Trying to take over the world? Like, I believe. Hey, if y'all ask any hip-hop question in Chat GPT, I said this offline, Jay-Z's name will pop up as part of the topic. I'm pretty sure Rock Nation got money in chat. That's all I'm saying. Any research, Jay coming up first. Nah, man. I mean, of course, Jay, for sure. Because again, Jay, L, sometimes you just are what you are in the world. And because of that, whether you do anything, you don't do anything, people think you're doing something, you move the needle. You can't help it. Guys like Q, guys like Slim, Outkast. Hell, Outkast going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, all that did for 3 months was sparked if they gonna have an album or not. So
Right.
it's healthy, of course, but that's the cool thing about us, man. We don't have to be present. That makes sense.
I was just getting ready to ask, like, we're already setting up a divide because my next question was just about people who, because I was thinking about Jay and how I think Jake became a multi-billionaire in a quiet way, like one of the most quiet ways of being like, damn, that guy's worth that now. It's something in this generation, in our generation in rap, with Jay, Nas, Redman, LL, all those big names that we knew from the 80s and 90s, they're moving in a different way than these new guys are. And let me ask you this. This year to me was from the new guys was a lot of talk. It was a lot of talking about one thing and then saying something that maybe shouldn't have been said or something that upset people a little bit. And then Instagram apology videos and actually making things worse by trying to apologize for what you said or doubling down on what you said. But I didn't see a lot of that from our generation. Our generation wasn't the rappers I just named, they weren't on Instagram apologizing for things and trying to set the record straight. Like they just kept doing what they do. So I guess my question is silence
It has
powerful
to be.
in that sense?
Right. So we've heard this for years. The strong move quiet, the weak starts riot. We've heard that for years. It is that. If you don't know, you can't really speculate. You can't be an obstacle. You can't be in the way because you have no idea what I'm doing. For this generation, they're trying to, for lack of a better term, they're trying to earn a name. and we're buying masters. You understand what I'm saying? Like, in a sense, they're trying to earn a name and we buying ours back. We're owning ours. And so it's crazy because these numbers are loose. So calm down. I don't need you historians going at it. But it may cost $1.95 to go so far as to copyright content, video, whatever. But it costs millions of dollars to buy back your masters if you didn't have access to them beforehand. So now let's talk about being around, being relevant, being enough to get yourself in a position to not just have the conversation about getting your master's or the resources to push forward the procedures. Let's just talk about getting them back. For however you go through it. I don't owe anything. Now, here's what's crazy. You might can take a video you posted and then add it to your story, maybe delete it, then let it resurface. And that means nothing. That's still the same 1/3 of a penny you was making beforehand. But let's talk about not owning an album, then owning an album and re-releasing it. If the album I released I didn't own, it sold 1 million copies, and I got paid $100,000 from 1 million copies. Record label got paid $900,000. I re-released that. There's no middleman. If I do another 1 million copies, guess what? You know what I'm saying? Guess what? So that's the thing, man, is mogul status. If you're not, I hate to say it like this, but if you're just still in 2025, as we get ready to end the year, if you're just still trying to be a rapper.
Let me ask you this. This is something I thought about when I was putting this outline together, and this is a question that really interested me. We're talking about guys. Now, there's going to be an obvious difference in the way a 45, 50-year-old man moves versus the way a 22-year-old man moves, because there's 23 years in between of life. But does it seem like, and I don't have an answer to this, but does it seem like the guys in our generation, the 80s and 90s guys, and even the early 2000s guys, because I'm thinking about Lil Wayne here too, who's present no matter what he does or doesn't do, those guys have such a hold on the culture that they stay focused on their music and their touring, and that keeps them relevant to us. Whereas this new group fights on TikTok and Instagram for views and clicks, but after they go viral in June, I'm not necessarily thinking about that artist in December. Somebody like LL, Lil Wayne, they can go an entire year without releasing an album, but somehow they're still kicking around in the back of our minds. Is that a difference just in age and how people move, or is that something that comes from 90s hip hop that didn't bleed into the new group?
So I put it to you this way. We had an attention span because the artist not only made music, but the process of making music forced us to pay attention. The way music is made now is simply a swipe away. Music is made now in 30-second TikTok clicks, 30-second. Everything is made in such a fraction of the piece. 30 seconds. I decide if I like you. I decide if you're memorable in 30 seconds. You and I have talked about this several times. We've talked about the Best Buy days. We've talked about the Sam Goody days and the release date days. Ain't no release date days happening now. Ain't nobody building up to a drop. Literally at 1 a.m., somebody's going to wake up and put 7 songs on the internet. And if those 7 songs don't do well, they're going to take 7 songs off the internet. And 30 days from now, they're going to do the same thing, but they may do it at 5 p.m. just to see if they get a different result with the followers. You didn't have that. You know what happened if you dropped an album that nobody liked in the 90s and the 2000s? It might be 3 years before the label allows you to drop another album. And that might not, you might have songs for days in those 3 years. So what would you have to do
on
in
the
that
shelf.
time frame? Well, you'd have to tour. You'd have to try to do features. You'd have to try to do promotion. You'd have to try to rebuild that. Now these people with a click, and again, I use this loosely, no disrespect, hustle's the hustle. But with a click, I can go on TikTok right now and there's this button at the bottom that says, for $14.95, I can increase my views for 7 days to 22,000 views on my video. Or I can increase followers, or I can increase people viewing my page, or whatever it is. So I spend $100 a month and I'm getting 50, 60, 70,000 views on video. That may be good or not, doesn't matter, right?
So what you're saying is the point of measurement may actually be the problem, because now that these young artists are fighting for streams, but these 80s and 90s artists are still doing what they've always done. They're building loyalty.
Well, yeah,
I think that that's actually kind of that answers the question, is those guys were more interested in building loyalty and building a following, stacking record sales. Like record sales is great, but they wanted, I don't want just record sales on my first album. I want the same people that bought my first album to buy my fourth album.
yeah. And I think that's fair. I think that's fair to the point where we don't care. Is that safe to say? It's not politically correct, but every artist in our generation, and you and I've talked to this a couple years back when we talked about Snoop Dogg's horrible decision to release Sensual Eruption and that whole project. That
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 sounds
horrible
that
decision.
just saying that song's name makes me feel
But
gross.
every artist desires to get to a certain level with their fan base
Mm.
that they can make music they just want to make, good, bad, or indifferent.
So what do grown fans want? Hits or longevity?
We want nostalgia. We want something that grows with us. A hit to me may not be a hit to the radio because we lived on track 12. We lived on track 7. We lived on track 5. That wasn't expected. So if 13 and 14 wasn't a hit, we cool, we fine. 8 tracks, 9 tracks, because that's how we rated songs. If you had 5 bangers, I give you my $19. If you had 8 or 9 bangers, it's a classic. And it's a classic to me. It goes in my classics that I pull up on when I'm rolling. That's why we kept CD books and binders or whatever. You think these dudes are storing videos, these people storing videos in their collection going, oh man, I love this artist. I love this. Oh,
Do you think with verses being so popular, do you think that's changed the culture a little bit
I think it,
in a good way?
yeah, because I think it helps done correctly. It helps folks like us. It helps keep the culture on the highway. It helps keep the wheels on the bus going round and round,
Between the
right?
lanes?
This was a question I was asked the other day at the barbershop. Someone said, who from this generation could I see doing a versus? This is what I said. And again, no disrespect. Who from this generation has enough songs anybody cares about to do a versus? Again, no disrespect. But I quizzed this same individual, 20-year-old young man, who's your favorite artist? And he told me. I said, all right, how many albums has that person done? He said, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3. Hey, do you know how many albums Outkast has done?
I do
Do you
feel
know how
like
many
I know all
albums
of them.
Jay-Z has done?
I've got
I
most of them.
mean, again, you asked me my favorite artist. I know exactly how many albums they've done. I know what
I can tell you,
songs are on which album and the years that they came out.
I know the last time they got in a fight, whether or not they like French
And it's
fries.
because the stake was higher for us. I think the biggest disconnect now with making music is the false belief that everybody should do it.
You know, I'm a book editor, and that applies to a lot of different things. Just because you
I
can.
mean, we've been friends a long time, and you know me. I've been fumbling around with the idea of a screenplay for several years. Have you got one page for me?
I have not.
Because I know I have great ideas, but I also know I need someone to come be the middleman for that idea to come to fruition because it's not me.
You know that there's a big ass gap between my dream and my reality.
Yes.
I do think the verses did help in the sense that it kind of shows you at least have to confront the question of hits versus longevity. Because we talked in a 20 versus 20 set, Nelly could go up against Jay-Z and make a good run.
A great run.
Yeah. Nelly's catalog's like 3 albums. All right, so if we move away from the attitude, I want to talk about like Gen X and what 2025 meant for us. Gen X doesn't need new heroes. Agree or disagree?
I agree. I think though we need some of the heroes who aren't the standard to re-establish themselves.
Somebody like
So I'm going to use this loosely, like the Justice League. Everybody knows Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman. Like you see them, you know them, right? But every now and then it's cool to have a Green Lantern. It's cool to have a Flash. It may be cool to have, I'm going to step out there and show my age, but it may be cool to have a Apache Chief. Somebody maybe not as well known, but had their moment to go, hey, like you said, like an Exhibit. Exhibit's the perfect example to be like, you know what, I'm still out here. I'm still out here doing it, and I'm doing it major. We talk about Red Man, we've talked about Method Man, but what if Keith Murray showed back up?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Shout out to Freaky Ty, but let's talk about the Lost Boys. What if Cheeks pop back up, right? Give me another resurgence of BDK, but what if we also got a resurgence of Cool G rap?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by no, we don't need new heroes, but we just need to remember there are other people in the Justice League versus the 5 we see all the time.
Yeah, and I do think I've said this a lot before, but I've got a good example on this. That what all of us do, not just our generation, is we think what I like equals better.
Yeah, and we're very guilty of that.
Yeah, and not for me equals bad.
We're old, and we're super guilty of that.
I mean, I think that's human nature, but I also think that's part of I think this year was a turning point for it. I think it changed a little bit this year because sometimes our nostalgia and our holding on to what rap was when it was smaller, it chokes things out. It chokes out progress. And I'll give you an example. I love Nipsey Hussle. R.I.P. I love Nipsey Hussle. My favorite project that he ever did was The Marathon Continues. TMC was so good to me. It was a classic mixtape. It was so good to me that I said, all right, this is it for you, man. This is where I want you to stay. What I would be asking him to do was to put himself in a box and just do that one thing. And yeah, and I wouldn't let him grow and get any better at what he does. And then probably another 2-3 albums down the road, I'm gonna be the same one going, man, he's doing the same old shit.
Because we quick to do that. Wait.
Is it? Because we did people I heard people do it to Nas. Nas and Primo just dropped their album.
I'm excited.
And I listened to it, and I'm not gonna get into my review of it, but the people's reviews of it were like went from 1 star to 5 stars. I mean, people were all across the board. And then I heard people say, the people who didn't like it said, oh man, hip hop's finally dead, man. That's it, man. It's dead. That Nas came out. I ain't like it. It's dead. What? It's dead now because Nas dropped an album you didn't like as much?
But what does a 51-year-old Nasir Jones sound? He doesn't sound like he doesn't sound like an 18-year-old Nasir Jones, and should not.
Right. If he still sounds like he did, he hasn't grown in 30 years, and that's bad for his mental health.
You and I said the same thing about the last Ice Cube project. The project before the last. So we said the same thing, like, okay, this sounds too much like him in the pocket. But again, what was he supposed to sound like? But that's us wanting our Batman to still be Batman. We don't want to accept Wolverine as old man Logan. We still want him to be Wolverine.
Bruce Wayne can get his ass out of that tuxedo and put that bat suit back on.
You might got to give me
I don't like Bruce Wayne
tuxedo, but I need the suit, baby. I need the Dark Knight.
Yeah, I don't care how cool your parties are. That does not impress me.
Like everybody would say, everybody like Tony Stark. Liked him a little better when
Yeah.
he put on the suit, though. You know what I'm saying?
Before we move on to the absolute truth, let me ask you one more question. What did 2025 prove about hip hop for grown-ups?
It showed us in 2025 that we don't have to be on the radio to still exist. If you look at albums like Exhibit's Kingmaker, you look at moments that we had in 2025, Dre and Snoop's resurgence, right? Out of the Blue was a banger. It was an utter banger. And it still proved to you, all jokes aside, Snoop can still rap. You know what I'm saying? But we had these moments, and there were others. I'm not gonna get through the whole album. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the Common Pete Rock joint. That was crazy dope.
Yes, sir. Grown man.
Now that we are truly making music for us, that we don't have to run and chase TikTok. And again, no disrespect for those who make their living that way. Just like back in the day, all these content creators that now have deals with Tubi and all of that, nobody hated your hustle when you was on Vine. You know what I'm saying? You had to grow through what you go through. So this is no disrespect, no shade, no hate. I'm just old.
Neither one of us mean this when we talk about this as disrespect because both of us were artists at some point who were in this struggle. What I'm saying is, I'm sorry you have to do this because this is a hell of a lot harder than what our generation had to do with music.
Yeah.
People have 30-second attention spans. All right, so we're going to switch it up. BA, it is time to give them the last absolute truth of 2025. What you got?
Argue with your mama. And this year was crazy. So check it. If you blinked in 2025, hip hop probably dropped a surprise album, a diss track, a think piece, a viral meme before your Face ID unlocked. It just was everywhere. But let's be honest, this year felt like a culture hit the shuffle button and somehow, some way, we still played the same song. Or at least the song we felt we needed. Because 2025 wasn't just about the hits. No, it was about moments. Hip hop didn't just chart this year, it talked back. And we got started, of course, with none other than Kendrick Lamar. The Super Bowl halftime performance was berserk. That was built not for TikTok clicks, it was built for crowd chants. Kendrick stepped onto the biggest pop stage in America and said, "No, y'all gotta think about this today. Sit on this for a minute and unravel what I'm doing." We're talking symbolism, some restraint, but intention. A reminder that hip hop could still be art, still be protest, still be a mirror and a medicine at the same time, and all at once. The performance didn't just beg for applause, it challenged you to get a little uncomfortable and then forced you to clap at it. And then, somehow, some way, we went from Pulitzer to prime time. Because immediately after the seriousness of that halftime show came the beef, the saga that turned hip hop into episodic television. We had confessionals on social media, fan bases choosing sides like political parties, diss tracks setting up like season finales. It was its own reality show. I call it, I don't know, Keeping Up with Compton and the Six. I would watch that if that was a real show. Nobody really officially won, but the culture ate full plates. Hip hop reminded us that competition is still entertainment and the narrative still matters. But for what? Let's talk about what we're really here for. Let's ask the question about 2025. Did females run hip hop in 2025? Let's really get into it. Now, of course, if you're talking about raw totals and data stuff, streams, global chart dominance, catalog weight, of course, the men still held plenty of scoreboard and numbers don't lie. That part is facts. Can't really argue with that. But the culture ain't just math, y'all. And it never was. The culture is impact. I say again, the culture is impact. Culture is who sets the temperature, not just who sells the most units. And when you talk impact, the women were unavoidable. In 2025, female artists didn't just drop records, they controlled conversations. They drove the memes. Think pieces, bars, people quotes. They did everything, and they ran TikTok. They made hip hop feel expressive again, funny, raw, even political at times, sexy, and of course, dangerous. Let's be real. As Gen Xers over here on Grown Man Bars, 2025 felt like we was waking up in the Matrix without a training program. Every week felt like, wait, who is that? Oh, no, for real, who is that? Is that a diss track? Is that a dance? Is it both? Why is the beef trending with choreography? I'm so confused. Half the time we were squinting at our phones like, I know this is supposed to be hip hop, but I'm not real sure which universe it's in exactly. But whatever. But that's the beauty of it, right? The code didn't break, the culture evolved, and we have to accept that. New rules, new voices, same heartbeat. And whether you're downloading mixtapes on dial-up or catching bars through your algorithm, reminding us all of one thing: hip hop still belongs to whoever dares to speak the loudest, the sharpest, and the realest. It's your boy BA. That's the absolute truth.
From the grown man absolute truth to the final verdict. That is the 2025 year in hip hop, y'all. And it was an interesting year. So rather than say, oh, hip hop was trash this year, which I do not believe, I think it was nice to see hip hop doing what it does in its 50-year moment. Like after 50 years to be branching off into so many tentacles worldwide, to have a lane for the classic rappers from the 80s and 90s to still do their thing while all the young Thundercats are making all their noise on TikTok. I think rap fans should really look at it and feel great about where hip hop is right now. To me, it looks as healthy as it's ever
I
looked.
mean, you have to embrace it. Where's rock and roll right now? Even
Exactly.
country and Western is leaning to pop and hip hop to stay relevant, to stay even close in the conversation. So if you're a hip hop fan, in the words of Big Daddy Kane, if you're 8 to 80, dumb, crippled, crazy, but if you're a hip hop fan, you gotta love where we are, where we've been. And even if you're unsure where we're going, strap up. Let's get on this ride and take it together.
That's right. And that'll do it for us, for Grown Man Bars, for this episode, and for the whole year of 2025. Gotta say thank y'all to everybody who pulled up a chair and sat in the barbershop with us
Yes,
this year.
sir.
We really appreciate that. But we will be back, season 4, at the beginning of the year with more good stuff. And next year we'll include another March Madness. This time we will be trying to figure out who the GOAT rapper is. I don't know how we're going to pull it off, so y'all need to tune in and see if we can actually do it. That is it for us. Y'all have a great holiday. Have a great new year. And during New Year's, stay out of the booking reports if you could. I'm your man, Chad. That's BA. Y'all be good out there.